Yo, what is up everyone? We are back again for another Shredder's tutorial. Today we are going to work on the replay editor. So I'm going to just do a quick little line here, and then we're going to hop in the replay editor and figure out what we need to do to make it look good. Or at least better than the standard. Okay, well let's fall right into it. Alright, so first things first, we are going to pause our game, hit L1 and R1 to go over to replay. I put up a controller overlay just to sort of get an idea of what buttons I'm pressing. If you are on Xbox, just translate them over. Everything should be in the same spot, so there shouldn't be much of a difference other than just the button names. Alright, so first, once we are over replay, we'll go to edit with triangle or Y. As you can see, I probably don't want that in there. So what we can do is crop that by setting a trim point. Let's go ahead and look at how to do that. So if you look up in the top left-hand corner, let me move this over to a spot where it's easily visible. You'll see our options are play pause with X or A on Xbox. To go back to the menu, you'll hit circle. To set a camera point, you will hit up on the D-pad. And the camera points are those little circles that you see below in your little replay line here. To delete a camera point, you'll hover over it and press down. Delete these ones at the end here. And that is how you delete them, just if you want to remove one at a time. Setting trim points, let's go ahead and follow our guy over here. We know that we probably don't want this in the clip. If you do, that's great. But for the sake of teaching the tools, I'm going to say we remove it. So let's just find a point where he sort of disappears around this corner. And I'm going to go ahead and hit square to set our trim point, as you can see there. But now we need a starting trim point. So we're going to go ahead and hit square at the top. And then to remove and clip this part, we will go over into our next options, which would be in the L1 or left bumper. You'll see we now have different options. So to crop, we'll hit L1 and square. Now that has cropped my scene based off of those trim points that I set. See, now at the end of the clip, we're no longer going over this rail face first into a pile of snow. All right, let's rewind back to the beginning. Back to the L1 menu, just kind of go over these briefly. First person view on or off. This is a toggle with L1 and X or A on Xbox. You'll see now that I'm in first person mode. Pretty cool. But I don't feel like throwing up this morning, so I'm going to take that off. And now we have the aspect ratio. This will be essentially just a preview of what the different aspect ratios look like in your clip. Vertical, high vertical like this could be used for TikTok or Instagram stories. I believe this is a 4:3 here, which can be used for Instagram posts. And then there's a square as well, which could also be used for Instagram or whatever social media platform you'd like to post it to. All right, so let's go back to normal here. Next in the L1 menu, we have sun direction. So you can see our sun is high over here. I personally like to set the mood a little bit in my scenes, and I like to move it somewhere that is going to be in the clip, but then low, like a little bit, not quite sunset, but still has enough sun to where it's lighting everything. So let's take a look here at all my features that I hit, just to make sure that they are well lit. See, I'm losing a little bit of sun on this last part, so let's move her down over there. At least have some sun here, and it's perfectly in the background. I can end my scene fully lit on everything that I have. And again, that would be personal preference. That's the best part about this, is sort of just have so much room for creativity and doing what you want to do with your clips. And again, this isn't a need to must follow guide by any means. It's just simply going over the tools that kind of have a better understanding of everything, and to help you get some better, smoother clips if you are struggling with that. And then last, we do have sun height, and same thing, just the up and down instead of left or right to move it. And then lastly, you'll see at the bottom, this is at the bottom of every menu, L1 and R1 will move the UI. You'll want to do that just before you record your clip so that you don't have all this other information there, cluttering it up and making it less realistic. All right, so now that we've gone over the L1 side, let's go over to the R1 menu. We have play pause. Again, that's nothing special. It's just playing and pausing your scene. And then setting slow motion points. So this one's a little bit different. So let's go ahead and take a look at a section that maybe we want to use this. Let's do our jump out of that maybe. Yeah, let's do that. So we have this section down here. I'm gonna move my guy, my camera. There's a last rail. I'm gonna set a slow motion point. So do R1 square. You'll see we now have a green line. I'm gonna do it right at the end because it does take some time. It has a little bit of a ramp down and a ramp up coming out of the slow motion points. So I feel like even that was a little bit too long. You can overuse it, I feel like, but again, everything's personal preference. All right. So we have that here. Let's set some more points here just so it looks better. Okay, there we go. Now we have our points going through the entire scene, but not really a fan of how they look. So what we can do is the next point here, you'll see remove all camera points with R1 and triangle. So let's take a look at the bottom line here. You see I have all of our circles. When I hit R1 and triangle, those are all removed. So now we don't have any camera points in our scene. And now it's up to us to place them where we want them. And then lastly, here in the R1 menu, you'll see is field of view. And all that does is zoom in and zoom out your camera. So again, use this with your own creativity. It doesn't always need to be, right up on the person. You can have a little bit of distance and then zoom in on them, get a little bit of depth of field feel. Yeah, open to creativity there. One thing to note too about this is you can actually set zoom points with different things. So like say for instance, I am fully zoomed in right here on point 1. And then point 2, I'm going to move right here and zoom all the way out. Just set a point there. You'll see it kind of makes a difference. See it's slowly starting to get wider. Hard to tell right there, probably a bad example, but it's doable. All right, so now let's go ahead and set our points for our custom replay. So I am going to go ahead and start this zoomed all the way in. Again, personal preference. And what I like to try to do is keep my writer in the center of the screen as much as possible. I've found that this can be really helpful with smooth transitions in between the key points so that we don't have a lot of jerking around and the whiplash effect that happens sometimes with just the standard key points. So let's go ahead and set a point here to begin with. I'm going to start moving. Put him in the middle. Start moving about the same distance. Get a little creative here. Following the rail. Put him in the middle. And what I like to do is I start off with my points about the same distance apart from each other. And then I try to get an idea of like where my guy is here. So he's about this far away. So the next one, I'll try to match that up so that he's the same distance about right there. And then about the same distance away. Now he's right here, about the same distance as before. Now we're moving right here to this point. And then towards the end, I'm probably, since he kind of goes off a little bit, I'm not going to follow as closely here. I'm going to let him just ride off and do a little bit of like just a rolling away effect. All right, so let's see what that looks like. And then so from here, we have just our standard points to kind of get an idea of where we want to go. We're just kind of mapping it out but we're going to make some micro adjustments in between. But let's go ahead and watch it through. Actually, first, let's remove these slow motion points. All right, so now let's watch it through. I'm going to remove the UI with R1 and L1. You see here, sometimes the colliders can be a little buggy. See, I'm on the rail, but I'm definitely floating. So what we can do to kind of eliminate that is try to put a point a little bit higher or even lower, depending on what it is. I think we're just not going to be able to get away with this one, unfortunately. But you get the idea. Can be a little creative with the angles to avoid some of those things. See right here, we'll fix this. My player is no longer in the scene. Again, no longer in the scene. Almost out of the picture. Out of the picture. So now here come the micro adjustments we can do here. I'm gonna do this. This is okay. I'm gonna lower it just a little bit. Maybe back off. Here. Set them in the middle. Lower it. Set them in the middle. The picture. Raise it a little bit. Set them in the middle. These right here. I'm going to back up the camera just a little bit. You want to try to follow where it's at. So I know the camera's right here. I'm going to lower it just a little bit and kind of put that in the middle. It's just a little bit of jerkiness here. It's going too fast. So what I'm going to do is actually remove this key point and then set a new one here. See if that helps. Now it looks a little more flowy. All right. So I'm going to raise this because we are going into the snow. I want to try to avoid that. We are floating above the rail, but that's okay. All right, so for here, personal preference, he's still a little bit too low. So I might go ahead and move this. Get a little bit in, keep him at the top of the frame. Still a little bit low here too, so I'm gonna maybe back off, keep him high. That looks a little bit better. Still a little bit off to the side for me, so I'm actually going to delete that keyframe and then move him to the center. Again, he's a little bit high, so we'll put a keyframe right there in between that. And then maybe one more just right here where the camera is naturally. There we go. That looks better. All right. I think for this one, let's use the slow motion point. I'm going to use it though towards the end, so we get like a little mood here. It just disappears into the slow motion abyss. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Again, this isn't perfect, and it's not a, like I said, have to follow guide. It's just some tips and tricks to help your clips look a little bit smoother, less jolty, and just get a better understanding for the tools within the replay editor. All right. I hope that was helpful. I know it's not perfect, but you know, it gives us something a little bit better than the standard keyframes that are placed in once you open up the replay editor that can kind of move you around a little bit. But definitely a good starting point. So hope that helps. If there's any questions or anything else you think I should cover, feel free to let me know. Happy to help. But otherwise, keep shredding.